Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about at this point in time, but we also have to look at the global context and what's happening in the world today. It would sound like a Shankar Mahadevan song of being almost breathless in terms of announcements around the world reacting to what President Trump has said. So let's talk about tariffs. Last night's big development is that the US and President Trump are threatening China with an additional 50% of tariffs. China retaliating, saying that they will impose countermeasures as well, but they hope that the US will come to the negotiating table. EU at this point in time has said that they're willing to negotiate with the US and have offered an olive branch, so to speak. Japan is already in conversation with the US, or at least that's what the US president seems to suggest at this point in time. We've had a call between Marco Rubio and our own Minister Jay Shankar saying that things are on track as far as the India bilateral trade agreement is concerned. The global markets are in a state of panic at this point in time, and we've seen wealth erosion across the US markets, across Asian and European markets, and our own markets as well. So in this very, very volatile mix, how does India position itself? What should our response be? And more importantly, from a domestic point of view, what should we prioritize and focus on? Well, I have three gentlemen who have their ear to the ground and their ear to the clients, who are telling them what is going on at this point in time. Rajiv Memani, let me start by asking you, a Trump era that we live in today, where every tweet changes the way that the markets move, changes the way that policies are being pursued at this point in time. How are you looking at it? When you talk to clients today, when you're talking to your partners sitting in the US and in other parts of the world, what is the view?
Yeah, no, I think very few people really fully are able to grasp the situation now. I think everyone's living on a pretty much day-to-day basis. But, if you just step back, I think what's clear to everyone is this position of high fiscal deficit, high trade deficit, high debt, and that debt being owned significantly by the country with which you have the largest trade deficit was not something that was sustainable, and I think President Trump called it out quite aggressively and has been calling it out. In fact, there was an article that was written by Warren Buffett in 2003, which actually captured this very well. So this has been going on for a while, but I think he's the person.
And he's literally the only one who's kept his shirt on, Warren Buffett, while the markets melt.
So but no one really called it out the way President Trump has. So one thing is clear. I mean, if you look at all this, that he's very determined that manufacturing has to return to US. So I think if you have to pull out anything, I don't think anything is going to stop him from that. Whether he has to apply pressure on countries, on companies, create the incentive environment for that, I think that's very, very clear. He's also very focused on targeting countries with whom US has a massive trade surplus or trade deficit, and they have a trade surplus. And where he believes that there are issues of the rules are not equitable on both sides. So he's going, as a matter of priority, I think he's going after those countries. So if you peel this further, what this is creating, Shireen, is it's creating a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
People are unwilling to take investment calls, unwilling to take business decisions. Supply chains are likely to change in a significant way. So everyone is now, and because of that, if I talk to our clients, especially in the US, they're already calling out that the EPS will not be what they thought it will be, and they're finding it difficult to project forward. CapEx is probably going to be higher. So that's getting reflected in what the stock markets, especially in the US, are showing. So that's one, I would say, that's coming out very clearly. Second is, almost all countries in the world will now look at trying to say, how can I do more? Value chains have to be redefined with countries with whom we have a level of mutual interest.
Right.
It cannot be absolutely one-sided. So the benefit that China got for a period of last 15, 20 years, I think that is difficult to sustain. And I think that means that a lot of supply chains and everything else will be changing. And if you pull this forward and you come back to say what it means for a country like India, And if you add that this uncertainty that AI will create, whether it's in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, when I say uncertainty, much higher productivity, but in terms of jobs, then India has no choice but to look at manufacturing in a very significant way. And if you're looking at manufacturing, if you look at historically countries that have had outlandish growth, sustainably, it's on the basis of exports, whether it's Germany, Korea, China, Japan earlier. That story may not work in that way. So that means your emphasis on domestic value added, has to become much, much more stronger. How do you create more domestic value add? How do you build relationships of mutuality where you have mutual interest with those? I think so that you can leverage on the export side of it. And how do you create a business environment which is conducive to all these three things? So whether it's in terms of cost curves, whether it's in terms of ease of doing business, whatever it is. So if you want, I can dive into details of all three.
I'll get you to dive into the details in just a second.
But that's what we are heading from.
That is what we're heading for. But